Hello everyone, my name is Nelly Mabaso. In this lesson, we shall be discussing one of the themes in Romeo and Juliet. Many learners seem to find the idea of theme very intimidating. They feel they cannot see the theme or find the theme. This lesson is designed to help you overcome any difficulties you might have in discussing theme. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to define the term theme. Find and discuss one of the themes of Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. Let us start by defining what we mean by theme. A theme is a main idea of a piece of literature, a poem, a short story, a play, or a novel. It is universal. In other words, the ideas in the play will apply to different people in different parts of the world at different times. A theme must have relevance to different people coming from different countries or cultures. This is what makes a piece of literature universal. It applies to all people. A short piece, like a poem or a short story, will probably have only one theme, whereas a longer piece of writing, like a novel or a play, will have more than one theme. You cannot argue that there is a set number of themes for any piece of literature. As you read or watch a play, a number of issues will strike you as important, and these will be the themes. How does an author like Shakespeare convey the themes to the audience? The first area you must look at is the story of the play. If you remember, we found the story of Romeo and Juliet summed up for us in the prologue.
Two households, both alike in dignity, in fair Verona, where we lay our scene. From ancient grudge break to new mutiny, where civil blood makes civil hands unclean. From forth the fatal loins of these two foes, a pair of star-crossed lovers take their life, whose misadventured, piteous overthrows doth with their death bury their parents' strife, which, but their children's end naught could remove, is now the 2 hours' traffic of our stage, the which, if you with patient ears attend, what here shall miss, our toil shall strive to mend.
What has the story emphasized? There are two lovers. They are faced with the long-standing hatred of their families, and they kill themselves. In this way, the hatred of the families ends. So, if we had to take individual words, which words would we say are particularly important? Grudge, mutiny, blood, strife, lovers, death. So, we can say that hatred and love are important contrasting ideas in this play. But the words hate and love are not really themes. They are undeveloped ideas. You need to ask yourself, what is Shakespeare saying about hatred? What is Shakespeare saying about love? Once you have filled out the single words, hatred, love, in this way, you will be approaching a theme. So, always try to write a sentence when you describe a theme. For example, if you think that the play Romeo and Juliet suggests that love is stronger than hatred, that would be a theme. We have decided that love and hate are important in the play because these feelings help to explain what happens in the play. We have also said that a theme must be fully expressed. Now, let us focus on love. There are many different kinds of love in this play. The play explores many aspects of the experience of love. Which ones can you think of? When the play opens, Romeo is in love with Rosalind. This love, however, is really an infatuation. Notice that Shakespeare never even allows us to meet her. We just hear Romeo talking about her. In the name of this girl whom we never see, Romeo puts on extravagant behavior and expresses great passion. He cries and he sighs. He locks himself up in his room and he creates an artificial night by shutting out the sun. So, the story and Romeo's character come together and we can start to express one aspect of our love theme. What shall we say about love at this point in the play? Shakespeare seems to be saying that an immature person with little experience of true love can imagine that he or she is in love, but actually they are just infatuated. Shakespeare draws a distinction. He makes us see the difference between genuine love and infatuation. If Shakespeare makes us see a difference, then we must move on to where Romeo falls in love with Juliet. At Capulet's party, Romeo sees Juliet for the first time and he forgets his infatuation for Rosalind and he falls genuinely in love. He speaks about Juliet and to her in poetry that reveals a depth of feeling, enrichment of the spirit, and a tender passion. She, in turn, responds to him with a love that is innocent and eager. Their joy and satisfaction in each other is complete. What can we add to our theme of love? Remember that Shakespeare is here showing us what young love is all about. In a play like Antony and Cleopatra, we shall see mature love, but this play is about young lovers. Juliet is 13 and Romeo is not much older. Let us try to formulate part of our theme. Shakespeare suggests that young people can experience a deep and lasting passion. This love is tender, innocent, committed. Young lovers think that their love will overcome all obstacles and problems. They do not consider the consequences of their falling in love. They simply focus on the intensity of their sincere emotions. The play also shows the kinds of love parents have for their children. There are two sets of parents in the play. Let's have a look at the Montagues. Lord Montague and his wife reveal a loving concern for Romeo when his behavior is strange. We know that he is suffering from love sickness for Rosalind, but his parents only know that he seems to be depressed. Lord Montague is right when he says depression in adolescence is not something to be ignored. I'm sure you'd agree with that. Later, when Romeo is banished, his mother dies of grief. Let's formulate a theme about parental love based on the Montagues. There are parents who have the interests of their children at heart and care sincerely about them. They worry about them and support them. But the Montagues are not the only parents in the play. What about the Capulets? Lord Capulet professes a great love for his only child. But when Juliet protests against his plans for marrying her in haste to Paris, he and his wife turn on her with an intensity that amounts to brutality. Shakespeare shows how, in the case of Capulet and his wife, love is conditional upon obedience to their every wish and subject to sudden alteration. When Juliet is discovered in her death-like trance, Capulet and his wife pour out their grief for their one poor and loving child, which, when we think about their former harshness to her, seems hysterical and exaggerated. Let us recap what we have said about parental love and then add to our theme based on the example of the Capulets. There are parents who have the interests of their children at heart and care sincerely about them. They worry about them and support them. There are also parents who put themselves first. Their children are seen as less important than their own feelings and interests. The children must conform to what the parents want. If the children assert their independence, then the parents react with fury and resentment. There are two other parental figures in the play, the nurse and Friar Lawrence. Let us examine each. Juliet's nurse shows great love for the young girl she has helped bring up since Juliet was a baby. The nurse wants Juliet to be happy. She helps make the arrangements for Juliet's secret marriage to Romeo. She defends Juliet against Capulet's fury when she refuses to marry Paris. But finally, the nurse's love is misguided and devalued by her attempts at compromise. She urges Juliet to forget the banished Romeo and marry Paris. And so, Juliet rejects her nurse. For Friar Lawrence, love is expressed in his care for Romeo. He gives Romeo advice. He is concerned for the welfare of the lovers and more broadly for the welfare of the citizens of Verona. Friar Lawrence represents sacred love and so encourages love that is true. He helps those in sorrow and distress with loving care. Here is a task that you can do to see how well you can formulate a theme. Think about the nurse and Friar Lawrence. Use what you know about these two characters to add to what we have already said about the theme of love. By now, you should feel much more confident when you are asked to discuss a theme in Romeo and Juliet. In the next section, you will be able to show how well you can apply the skills you have learned here. From me, goodbye.